Hello, my name is Todd McMahon. I'm a volunteer with the Heritage Chapter of the North Country Trail. I've also hiked the Ice Age Trail, the 1100-mile Ice Age Trail. I've done that twice. I've hiked the North Country Trail in Minnesota, which is 800 miles. I've hiked that, and I've hiked almost all of the North Country Trail in Wisconsin. I'm just leaving a little section of like 3 miles that I haven't done in case I decide to hike the whole North Country Trail. That would be my finishing hike. So I'd like to greet everybody here tonight. We are doing the best day hikes on the North Country Trail in Wisconsin. And like I said, I've hiked the Wisconsin section within the whole thing. And it was like 5 or 6 different hikes. And I've hiked that within the last 3 years. Now I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and everything's good. I'm going to share, and we're going to go into the slideshow. I don't know if I answered the lady's question. Oh, here's the thing I needed to say. My website is tmanshikes.com. If you go over there, I have the handout for this session. So it's going to have every hike here is listed on this handout. So, you know, you have the handout. You don't necessarily have to take great notes of this, but however you want to do it. I think that was her question about having a handout. All right, I'm going to see if I can share my screen here and we'll get going, okay? And then I'm going to go over here and I'm going to slideshow play from start right there. So like I said, if you have any questions, you type them in the chat, and then at the end of each section, we'll have time for questions. Again, this is the North Country Trail in Wisconsin Best Day Hikes webinar, featuring 7-day hikes from each of the 3 chapters. Just want to let you know, National Trails Day is coming up on Saturday, June 4th. Each of the 3 chapters are planning hikes that day, I believe. And so here's the AmericanHiking.org web address here for that. And even if you don't live near the North Country Trail, there's hikes all over the place on that day. So the Ice Age Trail's doing a bunch of hikes, a bunch of state parks is doing a bunch of hikes. Also down here at the bottom, I've got the North Country Trail has a relatively, I think it's relatively new. It's an events page that you can go on and look for different events on the North Country Trail. Okay, the other thing I want to say is the North Country Trail Association has an interactive map. If you go on their website and hit maps, it'll get to this big interactive map. And then on the points on each of the maps, you can click on the points and it'll bring up like driving directions, like restaurants nearby, stuff like that. And then also on that map page, there's a set of printable maps. And there's like a set of printable maps for the Brule St. Croix chapter, another set for the Chequamegon chapter, and a third set for the Heritage chapter. So you can actually print out some really good maps there. I have just posted on my website a list of campgrounds that are nearby the North Country Trail in Wisconsin. If you're a person who has an RV or camper and you want to go to a campground and then hike the North Country Trail, this I have the list on my website right now with, you know, all the information. But this is basically the last time we had a backpacking webinar. So this was included in the backpacking webinar, but I think it was included with all the backpacking campsites too. But on this time, I'm just kind of figuring that a day hiker is not all that interested in backpacking campsites. So I made a list of just the campgrounds. Shuttles. If you need a shuttle for a hike, contact the local chapter well ahead of time. Most of the time, like we were talking the last time with Kevin Schramm of the Schwamigan chapter, and he said that he was pretty good with having shuttles, getting people shuttled, pay well, because sometimes the volunteer gives the money to the chapter. If the volunteer refuses to take any money, if they're saying, well, I'm just volunteering, I'm not looking for money, you can always send a check to the North Country Trail Association, and people know that that's what I do. At the end of the year, I start, making sure that all my shuttles are taken care of with one big check to the North Country Trail Association. There's 3 main trail towns on the North Country Trail in Wisconsin: Solon Springs, Drummond, and Mellon. Now, if you see this, it says mile 68, mile 125, mile 169. There's a mileage system on the interactive map that shows you every half mile. So that's the mileage. The only problem with that is that if something changes, if a chapter builds more trail, the numbering systems can change from year to year. But we're really we made a lot of progress over the last few years to eliminate roadwalks and make real trail. So you'll see one later on in the show where I'll show you it. Hiking safety tips. Let somebody know where you're hiking and when you're expecting to be finished. Just so they know where if you're having trouble or something, they know to go out and look for you. And remember that a text message will sometimes work when a phone call won't work. That's because the text message needs just a split second of coverage to make it work, make it go. So, have somebody at home that knows what you're doing, and if you have a trouble, that they can send help for you. That's a good idea. Now we're getting up to the Brule St. Croix chapter, and their chapter area goes from the Minnesota border over there south of Duluth and Superior, and it goes to Bayfield County A. So the first day hike that I'd like to mention is the Macquarie Wetlands. This is the border here of Minnesota and Wisconsin over here. And this is just south of Superior by, I think, about 10 or 15 miles. They do have a parking lot. And then you'd be coming out here, there's all these ponds to view wildlife, birds mainly. And then you come down here and there's the Atlee Oswald viewings platform. You keep going, and eventually the North Country Trail goes away from the ponds, and it goes to the Spruce Point campsite, and it goes to the Namaji Overlook here. So we're going to take a look at this stuff right here. This is like the trail is going on top of these levees that they made the ponds. They got little levees. So it's on top of the levees. You're walking around the ponds. And I did see, when I hiked this, I did see some loons, but I hiked it in the late October. So maybe during the summer, you'd see a lot more birds. Here is the Atlee Oswald Memorial Viewing Platform. And Atlee was one of the original members of the Brule St. Croix chapter. And he was a dedicated chapter member, and he couldn't work on the trail anymore. And so he built these, at home, he would be building these benches that they use on the trail. And he also bought a router for routering signs. So a lot of the signs that you see on the trail were routered by Atlee Oswald, and his lovely wife is doing that job right now, Rita. She does the routering of signs for the North Country Trail in Wisconsin. We really appreciate all that. And this is just a little viewing platform so you can go out and look at wildlife. And you keep going and you get to the Spruce Point campsite. This is actually on a point. There's a hill over on this side and there's a hill over on that side. So it's actually on a point here. And it'd be nice for day hikers. It'd be a nice spot for a picnic. And this campsite also has a latrine. So you keep going down the trail and you get to the Namaji Overlook, which I don't have the best photo of it here, but Peter Nordgren says this is really great during the fall colors time. So that's our first hike that I'm featuring tonight. And we're going on to our next one, which is Pattison State Park. Now, how I would do it is up here at the top here. This is where the ranger station, the pavilion, and the beach are right at the top of the park here. And you go over here to the west and you see Big Manitou Falls. Then you can come down here on the east side of Inner Falls Lake and go to Little Manitou Falls down here at the bottom. And if you come back, you can take this other trail here and go on the west side of the lake. Some people just come here, the local people come here and just do this loop. You know, people who live in Superior or whatever, they like just coming down and doing this loop. So you could come back up on the other side of the lake, back to your car in this parking lot. So obviously, Big Manitou Falls here is the tallest waterfall in the state of Wisconsin. So that's a big attraction. Here is the picnic, the pavilion here on the north end of the lake. It's got really great historical displays in it, mostly about the history of the state park and the Pattison who was there. He was the guy who the park is named after. It's got logging information, nature. So they got really great displays in there. So check that out. They got a really nice beach right there by the pavilion. And of course, the main attraction is these two waterfalls here, the Big Manitou Falls and Little Manitou Falls. And this Little Manitou Falls, that's kind of bad interpretation of it because the North Country Trail goes through Minnesota and North Dakota, but in North Dakota, the North Country Trail goes by the tallest waterfall in North Dakota, the tallest natural waterfall, and that's only like 6 to 8 feet tall. So this waterfall, Little Manitou Falls here, which I think is around 30 feet high, it would be the tallest waterfall in North Dakota if they had it, or maybe some other states. So it's still a great waterfall, but Big Manitou Falls is the tallest one in the state. All right, that's Pattison State Park. The next hike I'm going on is Scotts Rapids to Gordon Dam County Park. And this is along the St. Croix National Scenic Riverway. You see this boundary here? That's the boundary for the National Scenic Riverway. And over here it says the Moose River Trailhead. Well, this is the St. Croix River here, and the Moose River just flows into the St. Croix River right there. So you're kind of like at the last 50 feet of the Moose River, but they still call it the Moose River Trailhead. So you hike east from there, you get to the Scotts Rapid campsites. All along here, there's a whole bunch of boardwalks. You get to the Gibson cabin and you keep going, lots of boardwalks. And then if you had two cars, you could put one at Gordon Dam County Park here, which is a campground. And you could have one over here at the, West Mail Road over there. But then you'd come across this, there's a big levee and a dam here. So I'm going to show you that right now. So here's the Scotts Rapid campsite. Again, this is fairly close to the West Mail Road or that Moose River Trailhead there. I'd say it's only maybe 200 or 300 yards down the trail, so it's fairly close. And nevertheless, it does have a latrine. It does have a place where if you want a picnic, etc. And this is a picture of the Scotts Rapid. If you were sitting on that picnic table and looking to the left, you would be seeing the beginning of Scotts Rapids there. Continuing down the trail, you get to the Gibson cabin, which I don't know the whole history of it. If Peter were here, he would know more of the history of it than me. But it's an old cabin that's still there. I think it's in the Register of National Historic Places. And you keep going and you hit lots of boardwalks on this section. And at the end, you get to go over the Gordon Dam right there to the county park right there. So just a nice section of trail along the St. Croix River, which, in a National Scenic Riverway, which that doesn't happen a lot. So, all right. Now the next hike that I'm going to show you is what's called the Douglas County Bird Sanctuary. And basically you can park at this road right here. It's called the Bird Road Trailhead. It's about a third of a mile to get to the North Country Trail. And then you can go south here and get to the Rovers Lake campsite. But there's a whole bunch of these pothole lakes. Right here, we're in what's called the Pine Barrens. So the soil is not good enough to support a lot of plant life. So it's kind of a barrens area. And then if you go north from here, you get up to this place where the North Country Trail goes. This is a very shallow lake up here at the top. And the North Country Trail kind of goes all the way around half of that lake there. And it's up, the North Country Trail is kind of up on this ridge where you can look down on this shallow lake. You'll see a photo of it in a minute. And so let's take a look at this hike here in the Douglas County Bird Sanctuary. Okay, that's an example of one of those pothole lakes. And you can see everything's kind of scrubby as it's in the Barrens area. Here's another photo of the Barrens here, just kind of a moonscape sometimes. And then if you head to the south, you can hit the Rovers Lake campsite, which is on a little hill overlooking the lake. It's very scenic location, and this campsite does have a latrine in case you need some facilities. And then if you go north, this is the little lake I was talking about that the North Country Trail kind of goes around half of it, and you're up on this ridge. And again, I hiked this at the end of October. So if you hike this like during the spring or the summer, it's probably going to be just teeming with birds there. So that would, this is definitely a nice hike, and it's in the bird sanctuary. So I imagine there's plenty of birds to see at these locations. If anybody's hiked this and want to comment and chat on it, that would be great. Like I said, we're missing Peter Nordgren right now, and he would be the one that could comment on that. But I hiked it in late October. So we're going to go on here to the Brule Bog Walk. Okay, so you can see there's a lot of stuff going on this map here. But we're going to look here at the Bog Walk, which is up here. This other part is the Brule St. Croix Portage, which we'll get to in a minute. But the Bog Walk, you can, down here at the St. Croix Lake Trailhead, you can start hiking it. And then here, if you look at my map here, that I put in this black area that shows you where the boardwalks are. And this one north of Highway P is, I think it's over a half a mile long. So you're hiking through the wet woods here, and it's just an amazing walk on the boardwalks. So I'm going to show you that here. Here's crossing the Brule Creek here. That's kind of like the start at the southern point. And every once in a while, they built in these little benches and little cutouts along the boardwalk, which is really nice. Again, you can see the kind of wet woods they're going through here. And here's another one of those benches. Sometimes, like I said, they got these little cutouts. So if somebody else is walking down the boardwalk, and you can scoot into that and let the other people pass, which is kind of unique. And you just keep going, and you can get up to the Catlin Creek campsite, which is about at the end of the boardwalk. It's about another half a mile. But if that's where you want to have your turnaround point, that would be a good spot. And I'll show you where that is in a half a second here. And this one also has a latrine, just to let you know. All right, here. So here is the map of the Brule St. Croix Portage. And then here's the Brule Bog Walk over here. And then, like I said, that that boardwalk ends right here, and you keep going, and you can get to the Catlin Creek campsite right there. Or you can turn around before that, just depending how you want. Now, so what I'm showing you now is the Brule St. Croix Portage, which starts down here at that same trailhead, and it goes along the St. Croix Creek, and it goes along the Brule River. And this is actually the portage that back in the 16 and 17 and 1800s, this is how explorers got from the Mississippi River. So this right here is part of the St. Croix River. So they go from the Mississippi River and come up here, and then they get into the Brule River and they go to Lake Superior. So the first person that did that, and I don't know how you pronounce his name, was in 1680. It was, I don't know if you're calling that Dulhut, but this is the guy that Duluth is named after right there. And he came through in 1680, and then they have different stones for different people. So I'm going to show you this right now. Here's an example. You're walking down the trail here, and you see the stone with the marker on it. And then this is kind of a more close-up view of the stone. This is Henry Schoolcraft in 1820. And he's the guy that if you hike the North Country Trail in Minnesota, there's like a lake and some trails in Minnesota that are named after him. He is considered the guy that found the beginning of the Mississippi River. So the source of the Itasca State Park. So that's kind of his, his fame. But anyway, if you go to the Brule St. Croix chapter website, they have a kind of guide to this portage here. And it kind of tells you what the the people were like, what they were doing. The one guy wasn't a very good fur trader, so on. They had different comments about each of the people. Now, when you get to the end of the northern end of the portage, where they would be taken in and out canoes back in the old days, you get to the Chuck Sozo viewing platform, and Chuck was one of the founding members of the St. Croix chapter. He was in the military. They have this little, over here, they have a little write-up about him. So a good memorial for a good volunteer in the North Country Trail. Then also at each end of the portage, they have a rock, kind of like a larger rock that's kind of what they call the portage rock. And it's got information about the portage on each end here. So that's the Brule St. Croix portage. It's an incredible piece of history, one of the best pieces of history that you're going to see along a trail. Over in Delafield, Wisconsin, they got this really great walk where they have like displays on every war that the United States has been in. So that's a really great historic walk. So there are a few of them around, but this is definitely, a piece of history here, the Brule St. Croix portage. So we're going to go on to another one, the last hike that I'm featuring for the Brule St. Croix chapter, and then we'll have questions. So put your questions in the chat for Abby to let us know. This one is from Highland Town Hall to the Jerseth Creek campsite. So the first one, you're starting out here and you're going through a pine plantation, and then it just starts going along the edge of this ridge here, and it's just really outstanding. You got really nice views. It's just a cool little hike on the edge, on top of the ridge, kind of like right on the edge. Then you get out to the Jerseth Creek campsite, which has got a view. Then maybe you're going to want to stop there, because to get down to this creek here, it's like going like down 5 to 7 stories worth of, elevation. So it goes down into like this, down the hill really fast there. So if you're doing an out and back there, then you're going to have to go back up the hill. If you're, just going, if you're going from here to there and you're going to go back. But here we'll show you the photos of it. And like I said, the main reason I picked this is this area on the edge of the kind of the rim of the hill here, which I really like. So here you're going through the pine plantation for the first 3/4 of a mile. That can be fun. Walking on pine needles is cushy. And then we're going here. You get to the edge of the hill here, the edge of the ridge, and you do have some views going to the west. Here's one of my favorite spots here, where you can see it's going among the tall pines, and sometimes it goes up and down a little bit, but this is just kind of what I really like about this hike. And eventually you get to Jerseth Creek campsite, and it has a view. But whenever you have some of these views here, you got to go in sometimes with the pole saw and clear them out again. The first time I went to this campsite about 5 years ago, it was just a stunning view here. Now it's excuse me. Now it's getting kind of encroached in. Maybe they went out and cleared this up here, but it does have a really nice view going to the southwest there. All right, so that's my last, I believe it's my last, my last hike in the Brule St. Croix chapter. So again, I thought Peter's visiting his mother today, but if we have any questions, Abby, do we have some questions?
Yeah, and Peter, he is on, he had audio only, and he has been answering a few questions in the chat. But the one question that we did receive was, do campsites require reservations or registrations? And Peter did happen to respond to that, just in case no one noticed or saw that. He was saying in this section, no reservations. Some campsites on the Douglas County Forest require a $35 permit. Some others on the Brew River State Forest require a free permit. So Peter did answer that, but I want to make sure everybody was aware of that. And so far, no other questions have popped up, Todd.
Okay, well, yeah, before, so if you're talking about campgrounds, which we're mainly talking about campgrounds in this this webinar compared to like backpacking campsites, like some of the ones that I just showed that Jersey Creek backpacking campsite, and you just basically show up there, and if you're the first one there, you're the person there. You know, somebody comes along, and if there's spots open, you know, let them camp with you, as it might be a long ways to the next campsite. But that's a backpacking, you know, more of a backpacking thing. And this day hiking class, I was imagining it would be more people that, you know, had campers that, you know, stayed at a campground and then they want to do day hikes. All right, anything else going on? I don't actually know where the chat is, so somebody else has got, like I said, that's why we have Abby doing the questions. All right, we are going to continue on here into the Chequamegon chapter. And like I said, we've got Kevin Schramm here, the president of the Chequamegon chapter, to ask, so you can ask him questions. And basically, the Chequamegon chapter covers from Bayfield County A to the backpacking campsite in Copper Falls State Park. So they cover the whole Chequamegon National Forest, which has got some pretty cool stuff in it. And we'll see what our first hike is here. I think it's going to be the Rainbow Lakes Wilderness. This is a map of the Rainbow Lakes Wilderness here. The North Country Trail goes through the Rainbow Lakes Wilderness. I think it's around, it says here 6.6 miles. So it kind of goes diagonally from the northwest to the southeast. And there's something you need to know about a federal wilderness. No motors are allowed in the federal wilderness, which means when they're clearing the trail, they cannot use chainsaws. And most of the time when we're out as volunteers clearing the trail in every other part of the trail, except for a wilderness area, we're using chainsaws to cut the trees out of the way when they fall over. But in this case, you have to use either bow saws or crosscut saws. So it's a little bit more labor intensive. The other thing with the wilderness areas, the little blue blaze that you see on the trees, there's no blazes and there's minimal signage. So I think with the Rainbow Lakes Wilderness area, the only sign I seen there was for the Anderson grade when I hiked it. So we're going to take a look at the Rainbow Lakes Wilderness, but it's a cool spot to, I don't think you can, like I said, it's got no blazes, but it's the only trail in town, pretty much. So you pretty much can't like get off onto a different thing. So I think it's fairly easy to follow. And so what I'm suggesting here is down here is the Renard Lakes Road trailhead. And you come up here by Wishbone Lake. You go next to Renard Lake for a long time, and then hike up here to Buffalo Lake. So you get a really good taste of the wilderness. And once you get up to Buffalo Lake, just turn around and come back. Or else, like if you're at this Perch Lake campground, maybe you could even do like a little loop here. This little green thing here is the edge of the wilderness, but it's also a road. There are roads here, which are the edge of the wilderness area. So you could kind of do a loop here from the Perch Lake campground. But we're going to start out down here at Renard Lake Road. We're going to be hiking near Renard Lake. So I'm going to show you photos of that right now. Here's kind of Renard Lake is way out in the distance there. And this is kind of some backwaters of it. Beautiful area. Then you got a place here where this is actually a beaver dam. And I think the beavers, this is kind of in the backwaters of the lake too. And the beavers put up this dam, they swamped this area, put water in this area, and it killed all these trees. So beavers, you can see the beavers work in action right there. Then you keep going up, and the Renard Lake has this really, really nice campsite. But if you see up here, it says user created. That means that, let's say I went out to this spot one year and I said, hey, this is a great camping spot. I'm going to camp here. So I camp there. And Kevin goes out there the next week and he says, I'm going to camp there. And he camps there. And then I come back the next year and there's other people that were camping there. And over the course of like 40 years, it becomes a campsite. So this is a fairly big campsite. It's in the wilderness area, and it kind of gives you an idea of what the lake looks like too. This is a really good spot, like I said, to get a taste of the wilderness area. Yeah. So that was the Rainbow Lakes Wilderness. This next hike that I'm suggesting is Delta Drummond Road to Cisco Lake Road, which is down here. This is another what I call a real lakey. You go by lots of lakes here. This is not in the wilderness area. It's just south of the wilderness. You can see the border up here in the upper left where the wilderness is. So this is just south of the wilderness. So this is going to be blazed. And so we'll take a look at these lakes here. Again, this is a little picnic spot by Overby Lake. Overby Lake's out there. I think this is also kind of a little water trail for like backpackers. If they need water, they can go down there and get water. So a little spot for picnic. This is, how do you pronounce this, Kevin? Is it Essex or Essex?
I think it's Essex.
Okay. So I'm always thinking that it's Essex, but this is just a view right from the trail here of this lake, beautiful lake. And we're going to go up to Mirror Lake. And Mirror Lake's got another one of these user-created campsites. It's not too pretty. Right here, we're not seeing the lake. The lake is more to the right of this photo. But this is just a real neat spot that people have decided to make a campsite there. So that is this kind of lakey hike, which covers a bunch of little lakes that you can hike by. Really, really nice. Continuing on, south of that, another few miles, you have what's called the Drummond Woods Loop. This is the North Country Trail in red, and this is the town of Drummond over here. According to the last time we talked with Kevin, the chapter is building a spur trail here to go into town. But okay, so like I said, you're going along on this Drummond's Wood Trail, which is also the North Country Trail, and they've got a bunch of interpretive signs here. This is about the King Jack pine that was cut there. That's during the old logging days. Drummond was a big logging area, and they had a mill there. Going back, just to talk about Drummond, they got a nice campground over here. They've got a beach, pavilion, all that sort of stuff in this park right here. It's really good. They do have a gas station. They do have a post office and a bank here. So just so that you know on that. So here's, like I said, we're back up to the giant jack pine. And okay, so that was the end of that hike there. Just kind of showing you the little loop that they have. It'd probably be really good to take kids on because they've got these informational displays. Okay, so this next hike is Lake Owen and this peninsula on Lake Owen. And what I'm suggesting to do for you guys to do is park at this Lake Owen picnic grounds right here. And there's a little trail that connects to the North Country Trail. It's not shown here, but it goes right there. So you hike around this peninsula. In many parts, you're kind of up on a hill, kind of looking down at the peninsula, but there are some spots where you get right up to the lake. On this eastern section of it is a little bit more hilly, or at least I thought it was, because this was after I hiked like 13 or 14 miles, and I was already pooped out when I was doing a backpacking trip. I was already pooped out, and I had to go up around some hills here. So it seems like I always hit the big hills when I'm pooped out. But anyway, you come up here, and then you take North Owen Lake Road here back to the picnic grounds. So that is the hike that I'm suggesting. This little road here is not a very busy road, unless for some reason there's a motorcycle rally or something like that. But most of the time, it's not a very busy road. So we're going to take a look at this hike here. First of all, this is the picnic grounds here. It's got a beach area. It's got a nice pavilion. It's got a nice outhouse, and it's got a water pump. So a nice little area for the end of your hike. I actually set up a hammock here and was just chilling out here at this spot because I liked it. Then when you're hiking around the lake, and you can see in this case, you're kind of up on the little ridge looking down at the lake, but they have these, I think it's like 4 or 5 of these signs here, which are informational signs. I think mainly they talk about the Native American tradition, because this peninsula is known to have Native Americans had lived on this peninsula way back in the day. So there's a lot of information. Kevin, how many signs like this are there? Like 4?
That's right. There's 4 of them.
Yeah, I thought they were very, very good. And you guys just put these in like within the last 5 years. Very, very nice. And continuing on, here's another view of the lake. Like I said, you're kind of up on a little bit of a hill looking at the lake. It's just a very, very beautiful area to hike through. And you can see the trees and so forth. It's a great hike. So that's another loop option for you to do a loop, which is always nice. I got another loop for you coming up right now. And this is over here, you see on the left-hand part of the screen is Lake Owen. So just east of Lake Owen, you have the Porcupine Lake Wilderness. And the North Country Trail kind of goes from east to west in this wilderness area. The part of the wilderness that I'm concentrating on this hike is this area around the 18 Mile Creek and around Porcupine Lake here. And you can do this in a loop. I'm going to show you that right now. So as you can see, this is called the 18 Mile Creek Springs Trailhead right here. And this is called the Porcupine Lake Trailhead. So there's two, they're not incredibly big parking lots. I think I parked at this one, and I think it only fits like maybe 6 cars. But what you're going to want to do is come down this side trail, meet the North Country Trail. Then you're going to want to come over here to look at this landing here. This is a very beautiful spot right there. And in back of the landing, there's a hill. And if you go on top of that hill, it's been reported that you have cell phone reception up there. But continuing, you're coming around by Porcupine Lake here, and then you get to the 18 Mile Creek Springs, which is a little lake right there. And then you cross the creek. And then, like I said, you can come up here, you can go back out to the road and then hike back to your car. So this, I'm calling this a loop. You just got a little ways to hike on that road, but this is a fairly spectacular loop here. We are continuing. I'm going to show you the loop right now. So here's like the northern, what I call the landing on the north end of Porcupine Lake. And people actually, if you see right here, this is a inflatable water like canoe, and people come and take a inflatable watercraft in here and go fishing in this lake. And then up here to the right is a hill. You go up this hill, and like I said, that's the spot where people use it as a campsite. And it's also been, Kevin, I think you reported that you got cell phone reception there. Is that right?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, it's one of the few places in the area where you can get cell phone reception.
Okay, so keep that in mind, everybody. Then, like I said, you go back and you connect with the North Country Trail. Like I said, kind of come down the North Country Trail to the east, see this area here, and then go back and start doing the loop. And you get to the 18 Mile Spring Pond right there. And you go past that, and then you get to the 18 Mile Spring. Now, remember that this is all in a wilderness area. So again, you're not going to have the blue blazes on the trees. There's going to be, the trail is going to be kind of minimally maintained. But if you look right here, here's the bridge over the creek. So it's like 2 logs over the creek. And I decided I was going to have supper there. I was backpacking. This is my backpack down here in the lower right. And what I did is I spread out my ground cloth there so I wouldn't lose anything. I just put everything on the ground cloth. So I had it all together. I had my jet boil there, and I had my satellite beacon right there. So this is just a very beautiful, and you can see there's lots of shadows. So I think this was around 5 o'clock in the afternoon or so, something like that. But just a really beautiful spot to cook up some dehydrated meals for me. So that's the Porcupine Lake Wilderness hike that I'm suggesting. Now we're going to the east. And this hike here is a real stunner. It doesn't have any waterfalls that I know of. And we've got several stunning hikes on this list that have waterfalls. But this thing just makes up with it with all these overlooks. So you start here at this trailhead, right over here, the Old Grade Road, or it's also known as Horse Road 202. You hike out, you see Juniper Rock. Then you go down, down, down to the Marengo River. Okay, this is the thing that you got to keep in mind with this hike, that when you come back, you got to come up this hill. So this is one of the more, again, I did this at the end of the day when I was backpacking. So maybe I just, since I was tired already, I thought it was very strenuous. But keep that in mind when you're coming back, if you're doing out and back. You cross the Marengo River here, and you kind of go up on a ridge, and there's the Marengo River backpacking shelter. And this shelter does have a latrine with it. Then you're coming over here, you got the old Swedish settlement that was actually like, has the ruins of an old farm there. And then you have the Marengo Valley overlook, and you got the Sally Girl overlook. Like I said, this is a very stunning section, and we're going to look at it right now. Okay, here is Juniper Rock, and if you look across there, you can see those other two overlooks that I was talking about. I think this is the Marengo Valley, and that's the Sally Girl overlook right there. And this is an example of the old Swedish settlement. I believe this is like the water house or the pump house or the well house right here. And then in other parts, they just have the foundations that you can see. Just an interesting little piece of history again. And then we'll continue on. This is the Marengo River Shelter, which, you know, backpackers would be using. People camping out would be using it. And this is the look, not like right in front of the shelter. You got to walk a few yards, like 20 yards, and look down the hill. But this is the view of the Marengo River from the shelter area. Pretty spectacular view. And then we're going to continue on. And we got the Marengo Valley overlook here. And we got the Sally Girl overlook. Two more really, really great overlooks of the Schwamigan National Forest. This is just stunning overlooks here. So, but then keep in mind that you got to hike back to, if you're doing an out and back, you got to hike up that hill after the Marengo River. All right, our last hike in the Schwamigan chapter is actually in Copper Falls State Park. Over here, you have the pavilion and a big parking lot. And this is called the Doughboys Loop because that's kind of the description. I think it was the Civilian Conservation Corps built this loop here. And that's kind of like a description of the guys that were building the trail. And this looks like one giant T here. So it comes down, the North Country Trail goes on the east side of the river here, and then it splits off up here. And then you take this down to the Bad River and you come back this way. So this is not the North Country Trail, but this side is the North Country Trail, but it's a loop. So it's a great loop. Basically, what you're doing here is right here's the part to watch out for. Right over here. Maybe people do turn around and go back the way they came right here. It's right here. You go down like 90 steps. And you cross the bridge, and then you go up like 90 steps. So this is kind of the most strenuous part of the hike right there. So we'll take a look at that. You got Copper Falls, you have Brownstone Falls, you have the Cascades. These are all just beautiful waterfalls. So here we go. So there's Copper Falls, and here's Brownstone Falls. These are kind of like down in a gorge, so you can't get really really up close to them. You kind of look at them from the trail. There's another waterfall in the park called the Red Granite Falls, and you can get right up to that waterfall. That's more south of this, but these are two beautiful waterfalls, and this is Copper Falls is what the park is named after, but Brownstone Falls is the taller waterfall. They're just beautiful. Then you're coming down, you have this part up above Brownstone Falls, which is called the Cascades, which is just a series of little waterfalls. But when you look at it from the end, it is just stunning. And then you can go up to the observation tower if you wish, but that is another pretty strenuous hike. I think I count to get to the top of this here, it's like 300 steps. That's counting the steps going up the tower and the steps going up the hill. It's quite a strenuous hike, but it's an observation tower where you get a good view. All right, so that, and this is the part where I said the low point, where you have to go down like 90 steps and you get to this bridge. And at this part, you can actually go out and kind of see some people here. You can kind of go out and be near the river, where the rest of it, the rest of the trail is in a gorge. Can't really get next to it. So this is the low point of that trail. So this is the last hike in the Chequamegon chapter. So we're up to questions about the Chequamegon chapter, and we have Kevin Schramm here to take your questions. What do we got, Abby?
Yes, and I apologize. I don't know if it was my Zoom that canceled that. We have weather here, so I apologize for that interruption.
I'm pretty good with Adobe Premiere, so maybe somehow I can patch them together.
Okay.
I don't know. I haven't really done anything with Zoom, so I don't know how that works. But if you give it to me, maybe I can patch it together.
Yeah.
All right.
No, sounds good.
So what do we got for Kevin? Do we have any questions?
Yeah. And it counts like Peter was did some answering too, but there was one was, are you allowed to camp anywhere you want on the North Country Trail? Was one of the questions.
Well, in the U.S. forest, they allow dispersed camping. And if you Google dispersed camping rules, you will find them. They're not many. Principally, you have to camp 200 feet from water and 200 feet from the trail. People don't do that. As you could tell by looking at some of Todd's pictures, most of the user-made campsites are right on a lake. And I was told by the U.S. Forest Service that, you're not going to get a ticket if you use any of those campsites. Environmentally, it's probably preferable that you do rather than create a new campsite somewhere further away. Basically, the answer is yes. You can camp just about anywhere.
But that's in the Chequamegon National Forest.
Right. And it's
okay. So you got, for instance, Copper Falls State Park. You have to camp at a designated camping spot. Okay. So there are different rules. And I believe when we went back to the Brule River State Forest, where we had that Jersey Creek campsite in the Brule River State Forest, you have to camp at a designated campsite. The answer is for Kevin, most of his in the Chequamegon National Forest, yes, you can pretty much camp wherever you want, but in other land areas, you can't. What else do we got, Abby?
That was the only question that we had so far. So don't forget, if you have any questions, put in that chat. Okay.
We're going to continue on to the chapter I've been working with over the last 10 years. We've built lots of trail, or as I call it, hacking the dirt. We've made, I just want to say with all this, there's been substantial gains made over the last 10 years. Now we got a section from about when I showed you the Gordon Dam, when I showed you the Scotts Rapids, starting there all the way over to near Gurnee, Wisconsin. It's 150 miles of trail, and there's only 7 miles of road walk. And the Heritage chapter is going to try to get rid of a few miles of road walk within the next 2 or 3 years. So it's going to be down to like 4.5 miles of road walk. So these chapters have been doing a really good job. I'd like to thank Kevin for his leadership and Peter for his leadership too. They've been integral parts to making this happen. And that's why we're celebrating the North Country Trail tonight, is because, we got a lot of stuff going on that you might not realize. So let's go over to my home chapter, the Heritage chapter, which starts out north of the backpacking campsite at Copper Falls, and it goes to the Michigan border. And it's mainly in Copper Falls State Park. About 10 years ago, the state of Wisconsin bought this land on the north side of Copper Falls State Park, and that allowed our chapter to build 5 miles of new trail. And we just been going gangbusters ever since. So the first hike is going from that Doughboys Trail where I told you the North Country Trail splits off, and you go north, and here's the backpacking campsite. That's the Copper Falls State Park backpacking campsite. Well, that one is a reservable campsite, and it's a fee campsite. So that's where the Chequamegon chapter ends. And then the Heritage chapter starts up here, and we have a scenic vista of the Bad River there. We have another scenic vista, and then we finally get to the Heritage Creek ravine, which is just a spot where the trail goes down into this ravine very, very fast. And it's a very scenic area down at the bottom of that ravine. So we're going to look at that. So here's one of the overlooks of the Bad River that you see on the way. Then you get up to the ravine. This is how you get into the ravine. There's this big staircase going down, and this is just a stunning spot. I'm sorry I don't have, it's kind of hard to photograph it. It's kind of tight, And what I do, if you hike up the north side of the ravine, there's like a little rest area there with a picnic table and where you can rest. But you may not want to hike up the north side of the ravine. You might want to because you got to go up this staircase to get back to Copper Falls here. So that's a lot of work. But what I do when I'm down here in this ravine, I sit right here on the far edge of the bridge. There's a spot, kind of like a little ramp, where it's just perfect for sitting down and eating something. So that's just a beautiful spot along the trail that goes down into this ravine. Like I said, going down in the ravine is like probably going down 5 or 6 stories worth of, it's not just steps, it's just going downhill, but it's like about 5, 6 stories worth of height that you're going down. So that's a beautiful hike. The next hike I want to show you, and by the way, we had a backpacking trip a week ago, which ended last Tuesday and Wednesday, that me and Kevin were on. So we hiked this whole thing, the whole Heritage chapter we hiked. So this is pretty fresh in our mind. So this is Highway 169 over here. This would be a 10-mile hike from the pavilion. Okay, so if you wanted to do all of this from Highway 169, going down through the ravine and down through the overlooks, this would be, if you had a car at each end, that would be 10 miles. But on this one, I'm just taking you out to the Northern Point overlook. and you're coming up here. You're going steadily uphill here, but right before Stricker Road, there's kind of a part for the last 50 yards that is pretty strenuously uphill. But then when you get to Stricker Road, there's a beautiful view looking to the south along the road. And you come down to Peter's driveway. After Peter's driveway, there's a 400-foot boardwalk. And eventually you get out to the Northeast Copper Falls dispersed camping area. And you get to the dispersed camping area in this case is what I call, it's kind of a confusing term with dispersed camping. But what it is it's a minimal campsite, basically what it is. And you come along the trail, you see some beaver dams to the east or to the south of the trail, and you finally get to the Northern Point overlook here. So we're going to look at all that stuff. So here is Stricker Road. When you get up there, there's quite a view. This is a little off center, so it's not quite as good of a shot as it really is. If you're standing out on the road, it's a beautiful, definitely a lot more stunning. And you get down to Peter's driveway, which is a private drive. After that, you got this big boardwalk that you cross. That's pretty stunning through a wet woods. You get out to the dispersed camping area. Again, this is what I call a minimal campsite. It doesn't have any facilities, doesn't have a latrine. It's just a spot where a person can put up a tent. Like a backpacker who is hiking through could put up a tent if they really needed a spot. Because there's a long distance between hiking places where you can camp, starting here. And then down here on the right side of the photo, you go down a little hill and there's the creek right there. And the creek keeps getting bigger, and eventually, so you're hiking up on this ridge, you see beaver dams down in the valley there. This is a photo from our hike just like last week. The guy stopped to take photos of the beaver dam there. And you keep going out and you get to the Northern Point overlook. And again, this is a photo from last week. And this is another overlook where I personally have gone down the hill and cleared the stuff off the overlook. That's with some overlooks, you have to do that. In other overlooks, like the Juniper Rock, that was a rock outcropping. So was the Marengo Valley overlook and so on. Those don't really need any maintenance as they're rock outcropping. But in this case, I got to go down the hill and every couple of years and start getting rid of the stuff or the overlook will get grown in. So that's the Northern Point overlook. So that's that for that hike. That would be out and back, or else if you're wanting to hike the whole 10 miles, you can keep going and hit the Heritage Creek Ravine and the other overlooks. So this is something that I wanted to show you. Currently, like I said, you come out to this parking lot on 169 and you take this road walk here for 2.5 miles, and you take a forest road up to Porcupine Hill, and that's where the trail starts again, is on Porcupine Hill. Eventually, over the next 2 or 3 years, maybe sooner than that, we're going to build this trail here, and it all depends on the state of Wisconsin's going to put a bridge right here over the Tyler Forks River. But that's slated to go in within the next year or so. And then we can get this trail completed through here. So then that's going to eliminate this 2.5 mile road walk. And this was a nice hike here, but it is a forest road. You might see ATVs on that. But, I've had cases where I've seen ATVs and it was a hot day and they offered me a cool beverage. So that was great. But here, this kind of looks, shows you what the Heritage Chapter, what work we've got cut out for us. So here, this next hike is from Wren Falls to the Porcupine Hill fire tower footings. And you come down Wren Falls Road here, and there's a parking lot out here that you can park at. You can go see Wren Falls, and then there's a hike out to the fire tower footings. There's a campsite here, which we're calling the Porcupine Hill East campsite. It's by a cute little creek. And then we have a campsite over here. What happens, there's a campsite right at Wren Falls, but it's a county-run campsite where the county promotes it. But it's right at Wren Falls. So there's like all sorts of people that come to look at Wren Falls. So they'll be like walking right near your campsite. So when they got this bridge, the Thomas Bridge right here, when we got that built, we built another campsite on the other side of the river, a more private campsite. So let's look at this stuff here. This is the fire tower footings right there. There's 3 of them. And it used to be a fire tower there. And they had these cribs with a bunch of rocks in it. That was the footings. And this is Wren Falls right here. You'd see a guy down in the bottom there to give you perspective. It's a beautiful spot. And you can kind of hike out. There's kind of like a little cliff here that you can kind of go out and look down, but just don't get too close to the edge. Then we also have, this is the Porcupine Hill East campsite. And the thing about that, it's got a tent pad right next to a little creek. That's kind of the best thing about that campsite. You can camp right next to a creek. And then I'm going to show you the Thomas Bridge right here. This lady that's Bethany Thomas. She's the vice president of our chapter. And she donated the money in memorial to her husband who passed away like about 10 years ago. And we got this bridge across the Tyler Forks done. This is a significant bridge here that allowed us to continue building the trail. Excuse me. Down here in the lower left-hand corner is when we dedicated the bridge. We had Beth Myers. Kelly Westland's running for office right now, but she's in Tammy Baldwin's staff. So we had some great speakers that day. This guy right here, Eric Peterson, he's the head of the Iron County Forestry Department. He's been so great to us. And like I said, Bethany donated money for the bridge. That's been just a blessing. So we got some good luck from people and allowed us to build more. Just wanted to show you the bridge. And then, like I said, here's the Thomas Bridge campsite. If you go north, I've got a trail built north of it for about 100 yards, and you get to this campsite. It's basically the first spot. It's on this little ridge. You can see the river down there, but it was the first spot where you could get water out of the river because the bank was pretty steep. So we decided on this spot for the campsite, a beautiful spot. You can come have a picnic here. There's a latrine here. At the Porcupine Hill East campsite, there's a latrine also. And here's a photo of me at this campsite. So I did a lot to build this campsite. I cleared it and helped build the trail. And I picked out the site of this campsite. So it means a lot to me. So we're going on here and we have another hike that's near Wren Falls. You come to the Wren Falls Road, there's the parking lot right here, and you start hiking east and you get the A-frame bridge And you go up over these rocky knolls, which are pretty cool. And then you get to the spot where there's a bridge, but there's a beaver dam near it. So what happened here, I can't remember what year, if it was in 13 or 16, is this beaver dam broke and it wiped out our bridge here. And this creek goes around over here to this A-frame bridge, and it wiped out that A-frame bridge, even though that's like a mile away. It just wiped it out. So this is a new A-frame bridge here. And we had to rework this bridge down here. But then you keep going up over this rocky knoll and you get to the KC overlook. So some interesting stuff there. Let's show you the hike. This is the A-frame bridge here. And this bridge over here is a bridge that Iron County is using for logging. And when they're done logging, that bridge is going to go away. So, I mean, I don't think they want ATVs to get back in there all the time. So that's kind of a temporary bridge. But this is the A-frame bridge. It used to be on the other side of this other bridge here before it got wrecked with the flood. But they did manage to reuse some of the lumber on this bridge. So that's the gold mine outlet, or the Gold Mine Creek right here. When the Tyler Forks River is just over to the left of this photo, about 25 yards. This is where it goes into the Tyler Forks River. Then here's that big beaver dam there that I was talking about. I don't think Iron County is going to let that fill up totally with water. It looks like the stream is flowing really good here. So they don't want to have another washout like we had. So I think they're keeping an eye on it so it doesn't fill up with that much water. But we did have these huge rain events. Continuing on, you get to the KC overlook. And this is just a stunning overlook. It's in the direction of KC Sag Road. That's why we named it the KC Overlook. But you can't see the road because it's too many trees in the way. But nevertheless, we were just at this overlook again last week. It's a stunning overlook. So that's the end of that hike. We're going to continue on here with the gold mine hike. Now, you start here, you park at KC Sag Road. It says park, like it has a parking thing there, but that's just you're parking on the side of the road. It's a little bit wider there. And you hike through the mature forest through here, and you get to the gold mine, which is a really interesting spot. And then I have the Gold Mine West campsite here. Now, interesting thing, if you keep going west here, you eventually get to that KC overlook in another mile. So if you went from here to Wren Falls, it would be 3.5 miles. And I just did that hike. Well, I did it with the backpacking group, but I also did it because me and Bethany, we hiked the whole 3.5 miles and we cleared the trail a week ago Saturday. So I've been through here fairly recently twice. So we're gonna take a look at this hike here, starting at KC Sag Road and going out to the gold mine. So here's the gold mine here. It's got this big piece of, I believe it was a boiler, and that it had a hose coming out of it. And they used this like a steam drill. They would, the hose went down into the hole, and they used it for, drilling the rock. So this is the piece of, and this mine was operational from around 1903 to 1912. So this has been sitting here for quite a long time. And then this next photo is of the gold mine hole right there. It kind of goes down in a funnel, and there's a hole there. And allegedly, from what I heard, this hole goes down 135 feet. So that's pretty, we do have it kind of roped off, but you don't want to mess around with that. But it's only like 5 feet wide right there. And you can see it kind of funnels down to the hole. And here's another photo. This is a photo of when I was building the gold mine west campsite, and I was hauling the latrine into the campsite. And actually, Kevin helped me build that campsite. I thank you very much for that, Kevin. But if you're hauling a latrine out someplace, you got to stop and take a photo of the latrine with whatever landmark you have. So I was taking photos all along there with the latrine. So it's just a little comical thing I did. And then you get up to the gold mine west campsite. You can't really see it, but this is on top of a hill looking down into that valley. This is like about, I'd say, 1/8 of a mile west of the gold mine. So you can't really look down the hill and see the gold mine, but there is a nice valley right here. And of course, it's got the table bench. It's got another bench over here, and it's got a latrine at this campsite. So that's this is another campsite. Well, I didn't pick out this campsite. I was hiking with Mike Stafford, and he thought this, I had another spot that I liked, but he picked out this campsite, and this turned out to be great. And then, like I said, Kevin and Ellie came out and helped me build this campsite, and it's been used. I think it's almost time to move the latrine on this one. So that's going to be a monumental event. But it's just great to see over the years the campsite being used. All right, so that's the end of that one. Now, this next one's a little bit more complicated because it just is. I'll tell you. So you're starting here at Casey Sag Road here again. You're coming through here to what we call the Upson Junction. Then you're going up to the Upson Lake Overlook here. And then you're going down. You got the rock faces. Right after the rock faces, the trail goes down, down, down to the Potato River. Then you're hiking the Potato River for a long ways. But this hike is going to end right after the Tilted Gabbro campsite. You go on a little boardwalk. Well, it's not a little one. It's probably, I want to say, 200 feet boardwalk here. And then you go up a little hill, and then you can see Casey Sag Road. And there's a little maintainers trail here that the maintainers use. So you can hike out the Casey Sag Road here, and then you can hike down Casey Sag Road to your car again. So what I'm envisioning here is a loop of 4 miles, and it's a fairly spectacular loop. You got a lot of, mature forest, a lot of really good stuff here. So let's take a look at this one. First of all, there's another way you can do this starting at the end of Upson Lake Road. Just don't park in the turnaround. There's a turnaround here. Don't park in the turnaround. Just park along the road because you don't want to block the turnaround. But then there's a side trail that goes up to the Upson Junction, and then you can go to the Upson Lake Overlook. So this would be about a 1.1 mile hike going one way. So if you don't want to do that whole 4 mile loop, this would be another version of it. But if you go down this road right here, Upson Lake Road, you get to, in about 2.5 miles, you get to Park Road, and there's a park there. The Upson Community Park has a campground there. And then there's Upson Falls. That's another great waterfall. So if you're camping in an RV or tent or whatever, that would be a good spot. You're coming up here to the Upson Lake overlook. And then, like I said, you're coming down here, you're hitting the rock faces, then you're going down the hill along the Potato River. Okay, so here we go. We're hiking next. When you see those rock faces, that means you're going, right after that, you're going down the Potato River. And here's the Potato River. It's just this kind of really wild and untamed river. It's just beautiful. And like I said, the North Country Trail, right now, I think we're going along it like maybe 1.5 to 2 miles. And then once we start building more trail, we're going to be going along it for some more. So this is just a beautiful river. And then you get up to the Tilted Gabbro Rock, which is at the Tilted Gabbro campsite. Basically, there's this huge rock that was left there by the glacier 11 to 13,000 years ago. And what I did was, when I decided this was going to be a campsite, is it's just the campsite's to the left of this photo. It's kind of up on this little knoll here. And we've camped at it last week. It was a great spot to camp. But what happened with this, I took a fragment of the rock here, and I took it to a guy, David Mickelson, who is the author of the Geology of the Ice Age Trail, and had him look at the little rock fragment. And he said, that's a gabbro rock. So that's how we named the campsite. So we had that. I just didn't want it to be the Tilted Rock campsite. I wanted to find out what kind of rock that was. If it was, if it was basalt rock or whatever. Because I've hiked the whole Ice Age Trail, and the Ice Age Trail has all this stuff about different rocks and kettles and geographic formations. So that's the rock. And here's actually our photo from last week. We had 3 tents, and then my tent was down closer to the rock. You can see the river right here in the background. I am doing a video on this campsite. I just haven't edited it yet because I've been working on this PowerPoint. Okay, so that's the end of that hike there, where you hike out to the road right here after Tilted Gabbro. You go on a boardwalk, then you go up a little hill, and then you can see Casey Sag Road going to the west there, right to the west of the trail here. And you want to hike out to that and go back to your car. Now here, this is our last hike of the night, and then we're going to have questions and a few more comments at the end. But this is basically, you got the Sullivan Fire Road here, and there is a little parking lot right here. People have a little parking lot to go to Foster Falls right there. So you definitely want to go to Foster Falls on this hike too. But what I'm saying is you just go south here along the river. You can go back to Tilted Gabbro and then do out and back to Tilted Gabbro. That would be a great hike, and you get to see a lot of this wild river here. So we're going to take a look at that hike. Here's another view of the Potato River. Just a beautiful, gorgeous river. I don't think it's dammed up at any spot, so it is a truly wild river. And this again is the Tilted Gabbro campsite. And this is the Wisconsin roving crew. They're the one, actually I picked out the spot for the campsite, but they came in and built the campsite. They put the benches here and the bench table. This bench table is really nice. We used it when we were backpacking there, and it worked out sweet. I really like it. And the fire pit is a little bit more built up now. than that photo. So, and this is Foster Falls. If you do that hike there, you're going to want to go to Foster Falls. And Foster Falls is like two hikes or like two waterfalls in one. You got this big chute of water here that comes down this big chute. And then back here, there's another like little waterfall. So it's like two waterfalls in one. And there I am. I'm like 25 pounds heavier there. So I'm glad I've been out hiking and working out and I got rid of that. So I'm looking for more adventures to hike when I'm retired now. But this is a stunning waterfall that you can walk right up to. So that is the end of the Heritage chapter. Do we have any questions?
Yes, we had a couple, and I just want to read them out. I know some people have been responding to them, but to get your viewpoint too. One question were, are dogs allowed on the trails?
Okay, the only place on the North Country Trail in Wisconsin that I'm aware of that there's that don't allow dogs is the Doughboys Trail at Copper Falls State Park. This is a very heavily used hiking trail by thousands of people, even thousands of people a day sometimes. But that being said, if you ask at the ranger's office, they have a alternate route. If you're going out to the backpacking campsite, they have an alternate route for you to take, that you can take your dog around the Doughboys Trail. But the rest of the, Kevin, are you aware, Kevin and Peter, are you aware of any place else that they don't allow dogs on the North Country Trail?
I think you have it right.
Okay.
Yes, Todd, I agree too. And just two precautions. One is that it's always good courtesy to have your dog under control and make sure that if they meet other hikers, you can control them. The other fact is that it's wolf country, and wolves are known to attack dogs. And so if you hike with your dog, keep that in mind.
Okay. So what else do we have?
Yes, I know there's some input in this already, but is there a book published with information and maps on the NCT?
Again, there's not really a book for the Wisconsin section yet. I do think Tom Funk had written a book kind of like the best hikes along the North Country Trail. I think that was for Wisconsin and Upper Peninsula of Michigan, if I'm not mistaken. But and there's been like some other books that had the best hikes. The North Country Trail Association published a book of the best hikes on the North Country Trail, but that was including everything from North Dakota to New York. But as far as this section in the Wisconsin, there's not really a guidebook. There's really, really good maps at the North Country Trail website. Also, the Schwamigan chapter has got like a little Wikipedia that you can go look at when you're hiking the Schwamigan chapter. But Peter.
Yes, Todd. Thank you. We are hoping there will be a guidebook in the next year or two. Stay tuned.
Yeah, that's something that I definitely, I helped out with when I hiked I hiked the whole Minnesota section of the North Country Trail. And then after that, I contributed to their guidebook, did a lot of stuff for that guidebook. And like I said, I'm willing to help Peter with whatever he wants. And also on my website, tmanshikes.com, and also on the Heritage Chapter website, northcountrytrail.org/HTG. I have made the maps for the Heritage Chapter, which kind of gives you a blow-by-blow, description of the trail. What else do we got?
You already touched base about maps being on the North Country Trail website, and that was the last question then that we currently have.
All right, so I want to just finish it right here. Thank you, Abby, for hosting us today. Good to meet you. Good luck. You can maybe just tell us a little bit about what you're in charge of events for the North Country Trail, which I imagine is the annual conference that's coming up.
Yeah, I'm the annual events coordinator for the North Country Trail Association. And so I'm in charge of the yearly celebration. So this year we're in Walker, Minnesota, October 5th through the 9th. And our registration will be opening June 14th for that to reserve your spot. And then, so we're very excited about that, getting all the final details and everything confirmed, but we're looking forward to meeting in person again. After being 2 years virtual. So we definitely hope that we get, everybody else, I feel like is anxiously waiting to get back in person. So we're really excited for Walker, Minnesota to be hosting us.
Okay. Like I said, I've hiked all of Minnesota. There's some pretty stunning stuff over there. Just like to say thank you to Peter. How he went to visit his ma today. How's she doing?
She's doing very well. She had her 94th birthday in January.
All right. That's good to hear. And I was out backpacking with Kevin last week, and we all heard about Murphy. How's Murphy the dog doing?
He's doing just fine. He's my rescue animal. He's adjusting. Murphy was alone outdoors too long, and now he wants to be in the house.
Okay. So you've only had him for like 2 weeks, right? Something
right.
Like that.
Yep.
All right. Well, good seeing you. The last thing I want to talk about here is what you can do to help. Obviously, you've seen we've got some really great volunteers here that have been talking tonight, Peter, Kevin, myself. We're always looking for volunteers. And when I say looking, and whatever talents you have, we love to use your talents. Basically, I'm the guy, I like going out and building trail. I like hacking the dirt, and that's what I like doing. But if you have other talents than that, for instance, the guy I really, really like in our chapter is Dale Yerkes. He's our treasurer. That's a job that I don't want to do. So I'm happy he's a retired accountant, and that's just kind of up his alley. So I'm very, very happy to have, somebody to do these other jobs that, especially even the Ice Age Trail has this group called the Blazing Babes, and all they do is go around and they paint the blazes on the tree. So that would be a great help. Whatever you can do, talk to your local chapter. If you want to clear the trail, they'll explain how to do it. All you need is a bow saw and a loppers. And if you find a tree that's too big for your bow saw, you just let your chapter coordinator know, and they'll send somebody out with a chainsaw to saw that out of there. So you don't have to be, but if you're comfortable with a chainsaw, we can use people like that too. We do have training programs for all that. And just the North Country Trail in Wisconsin's, we made great progress due to people like Peter and Kevin and all the other people in these chapters. And we just want to keep it going, and we'd like some more people to be involved. You guys, other two, got anything to add to that?
No, thanks, Todd. You did a wonderful job again. We all appreciate it.
Thanks
All
for
right.
organizing it, Todd.
Thank you. We're spreading the gospel of the North Country Trail today. Thank you. Is there anything else I gotta do before we leave here, Abby?
Nope, Todd, I was just wondering, people were wanting to make sure that the recording would be available to them. And did you know if we had a plan to send it out via email or post it somewhere so people can access
I
it?
don't know how. I got an email from the last one we did. I got an email from Matt Davis. So
Okay,
I
with
don't
it.
know if he emails the whole thing out to every participant.
Okay, we'll make
But-
sure we can do that. We can
I
do that.
could, yeah, you could do that. I'll probably have the link on my website, T-Man Sykes. The thing about T-Man Sykes, there's no apostrophe. So, but check that out. I got a lot of resources for hiking for you. All right, thank you very much. Thanks for participating, everybody.